first thing I'm gonna do is open my Illustrator file, and you can see I've got my lines. They're all paths, and I've had this set up to 48 by 48 inches, and I put it in the lower left-hand corner, which this will be my 0, 0 point. And if I turn on rulers, I can actually see that I've got it set to 48 by 48. One thing I'd like to do before I save this to open in Rhino is to select the rectangle tool here. So I'll select the rectangle tool, and I will use that to define this space here. So it looks like it's about 22 inches by 19 inches. So as long as I have that material, that amount of clearance, I will save that. And now when I open this in Rhino, I'll be able to see where that path is. Even if I'm not gonna make that cut, it's nice to be able to see it on my original file. So I have this as an AI. I'm gonna open Rhino. So the first thing I'm gonna do when I open Rhino is make sure that the tool library is loaded, and if there are no tools here, you wanna go to Load Tool Library, and it should open up a folder that's in CNC stuff that lives on the desktop, and you wanna load the Spring 2021 CMU Art CNC Tool Library. So you'll hit that. It will say, do you want to replace or load these tools? And it should say 11 tools successfully loaded. So they were already there, but sometimes if they don't show up, you do need to manually load them. The next thing I want to check is that this says post to CNT Motion 950 Art. That's where it will post whenever you're ready to save it. So if it does not say that, you just double click and you scroll to CNT Motion 950_art. So those are the first two things. The next thing you're gonna do is click on stock, and I'm gonna put in my corner coordinates. This will be our 0, 0. So I'm gonna put 0, 0, 0 for all of these. And then the dimensions of your stock, you're gonna add your actual dimensions in here. So if my stock is 25 by 25, and the thickness is the height, I want to use calipers to measure that exact. So even if I bought 1/2 inch stock, I want to make sure it's exact. So it might be 0.48 for this example. So I'm going to use it, and you'll see that the thickness view is here, and it shows up in the corner. So once that's all ready, now I'm ready to go to File, Import. I'm going to import my AI file. I'm going to preserve the units because I did that in the file, and I should see it show up in the corner, ready to go. And then this again was just a guide. I might not want to do that profile cut, but it was helpful to visualize to make sure that my stock isn't accidentally like the wrong size. So this wouldn't fit. And you can resize if need be, but you just want to be mindful that if you're not as familiar with RhinoCAM, that resizing your actual file is a little bit easier in Illustrator. So I just make sure that everything's right before I import my file. Okay, so everything's ready to go here. We should be on the mill section, and then I'm going to go to machining operations, 2-axis, I'm gonna go to profiling. There will be no machining regions selected here. If there are, just hit remove all, because what we want to do is select curve edge regions. Click on that, and I'm going to start with my interiors first. And I'm going to select it and then hit enter. Select, hit enter for all of these so that they're all highlighted yellow. Hit enter when done, and now all my drive regions are here. And I want these to be interior cuts. So the next thing I'm going to do is select my tool, and I'm going to cut this out of MDF. So I'm just going to do T3 because it's the flat end compression bit, and it will cut up to 0.75 in one pass. So for this, that's what I'm going to use. And then once I select my tool, I'll go to feeds and speeds, and I'm going to use the sheet, the laminated sheet with the ring on it, to look at MDF, plywood are the two materials you can cut. They are the same, but I'm going to refer to MDF. It's 18,000, plunge 50, approach 100, engage 200, cut 350, retract 800, and departure 800. And then these all stay the same. So that's all I need to do for that. I'm just gonna go along the bottom here, clearance plane. I wanna set my absolute Z to 1.25 or as high above my material as I need. So this is only a 1/2 inch thick. 1.25 is more than enough. If I was cutting 2-inch foam, I would need to make this at least 2.25 or 2.5. And that's all you need to do for clearance plane is your absolute Z. Then I'm going to go to cut parameters. I'm going to select mixed if it's not selected already. And then this can stay the same for cutting side, but I want to use outside or inside. So I want to start from the inside of the cut because I want to preserve this area. So I'm going to go plunge in and then cut around. So I'll set that to inside. Everything else can stay the same. Cut levels, I'm going to select pick top, and I'm going to select the thickness of my material. And then my total cut depth, I want to go all the way through. So I'm going to do 0.48, and that will just populate when I select here. So if I wanted to, if I selected a tool that did not have the ability to cut all the way through, I would put 0.48, and then the rough depth I would set to, something like that, and then it would adjust. So it would make more than one pass. But because this tool can go all the way through in one pass, we're gonna keep it simple. And I hit enter and it generated that, but I'm actually not done. So I'm gonna open this up again. I've got my tool, I've got my feeds and speeds, clearance plane, cut parameters, inside, cut levels are set, entry exit. I want to do a long path, so I'm gonna set a long path. Everything else can stay the same, and then advanced cut parameters. Because these are small cutouts, I am gonna create bridges. So I'm gonna say rectangular. This is the height of the bridge, so they're gonna be very low profile. You can adjust it if you want. The bridge length is gonna be 0.2 inches. That's fine. Number of bridges, I might increase that to at least 3 so that they hold these little pieces in and they don't get sucked up into the desk washer. Then I will hit generate, and once that's done, I can call this interior, and then I can also simulate. So I'm right clicking simulate, and I should see how it goes. You can also go to preferences and you can make the accuracy a little bit clearer, rerun the simulation so that it looks a little smoother and less choppy, and this is how it will cut. Then for the last cut, I'm going to go back to my setup, and I'm going to go to machining operations, 2-axis profiling. I'm going to remove all of these because I just want this one big outside cut. So select outside cut, enter, I'm done, only doing that one. And I'm going to use the same exact tool. So I'm going to make sure it's on T3, make sure that these are all the same, which they are. Clearance plane selected, advanced cut. I will do some tabs. I'll do more because there's more on the outside. Entry exit, along path, cut levels, the same, all the same. Cut parameters, this is important for this one. I want to change this to outside so that it enters from the outside. I'm going to check everything. And as you can see, these all jump around, so there really is no order. I just always do my tool and my feeds and speeds first. So I'm going to generate, and now I would want to do my interior first, so you can see that that switched them. If you pull this up, it'll do that cut first. Right click, simulate. Then it will do my outside. And so long as I don't select that other line, it's not going to cut it. Everything looks good. So what I'm going to do is hit setup and post. When I go to that, it's going to generate my NC file. I'm going to call this call it test cut. When I hit post, just want to make sure that it's posting to the right location. It will also say it up here. That should be right. I like to check that this first Z is the clearance plane, so 1.25. It should be pretty long. If your code is short, you probably accidentally only posted one of your cuts. So you want to make sure everything looks essentially correct. You can also do a Control F to look for any negative Z's. Make sure it's not going to plunge into the plane, and then you're going to save this to the USB that you will then take over to the CNC USB. Here's my test cut. I will move this file to my CNC USB, and there it is. And this is what I will load into WinCNC. So similar to the profile cut, when I open up RhinoCAM, I'm going to make sure the tool library is loaded. If it's not, I will load spring 2021. So those tools are there. I will make sure the post is CNT motion 950_art, and then I will put my stock material in. So I'm going to enter in 0 for all of these, and let's say it's 20 by 20 by 0.48, and then I've got my stock. All right, so now I'm going to import my, I'm going to do the same file, but instead of doing a profile cut, I'm going to make these pockets, interior pockets. So if I want to make this hit my stock, oops, I want to make this adjust the size. I'm actually going to just resize it. And if I want to delete that, I can. All right, so now I've got my shape. I'm going to set up machining operations 2-axis. Instead of profiling, I'm going to select pocketing. And then here, if there's any machining regions showing, just hit remove all, because you want to actually select them yourself. Hit select, hit enter after each one so that they're highlighted. And then hit enter when done. There they are, my 6 regions. And then I'm going to pick the tool. I will do T4 this time. So I'm going to refer to the feeds and speeds sheet and plug that in for T4. And if this is MDF or plywood, it is different for both of those materials. So I'll do MDF at 50, 75, 125, 175, 800, 800. Then I'll go to clearance plane. I want to make sure that this is higher than my material. I don't need to worry about any of the advanced cut parameters, but I do need my cut levels. So pick top is going to be the thickness of the material. The total cut depth is how deep I want the pockets. So this particular tool can only cut at a 0.25 distance. So I could go max 0.25 and I could do that in one cut. If I wanted it to go deeper than that, if I wanted this to be a 0.3, I would still want that to be this. So that it would do my rough cut depth first, and then it would make another pass and go deeper. I will make it easy though. I'll make it just the max it can go, so it'll just do that one time. I could also, even though that's the max, I can always err on the side of caution, and I could make this less, and it would make it 2 passes. I also want to make sure that I've got my start point as the inside, so that it's going to start from the inside and go out rather than the outside in. Make sure that everything else looks good. Then I'm going to hit generate. And you saw when I accidentally did that before, you can just reopen it if you need to check or change things. Now I'm going to simulate. And you can always speed it up, and you can see how it did one pass and it's doing another. It does one, and then it goes deeper. So again, even though this bit can cut all in one depth, I can choose to make it do 2 passes. And there we go. So now it's pocketed. I can rename this if I want. And then if I want to do the outside cut, if I want to do the outside cut, I just click on this and do profiling. I'm going to remove all of these because I don't want them cut out. I'm going to select that. That's the only drive region, and this is just like the other one. I could cut it with T3 or I could cut it with T1. I'll just go ahead and set it to T3 since that's the one we did before. But you always want to double check these feeds and speeds. That's correct. I want to be on the outside. I want to pick top. Total cut depth is the depth of the material. And again, if this was not capable of cutting that thickness, I would keep this the same, but I could change this and it would do 2 passes. So I'll show you how that works. All I'm doing is putting this number in here and then it's adjusting when I click these. Entry exit along path. Checking clearance plane, checking the cut levels, checking everything, bridges, I'll do bridges, do 4, and generate. Okay, and now when I not curved cut, okay. And again, if I want to do that first, pockets, and I can just choose to simulate that cut. And you see how it does 2 passes, and there's the bridges, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see the bridges. So if I decided I actually don't need 4, I only want 2 bridges, I can go back into my cut, advanced, 2 bridges, generate, and it would only generate 2. There's 1 there, and there's 1 there. And then this is the pocketed. The last thing you'll do is make sure you have setup selected, post. And there we go. You can also do file find, pocket versus profile. Can't find profile. Let's say T3. Oh, there it is, cut. It's because I named it cut, so you can search for whatever you call this. So I called it cut. There it is. Make sure that I exported both of them. And that's it. Then I will move this to my USB. And I'm ready to cut it.